Please join me in Gasho. Naman Nobs, 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 Naman Nobs.
Good morning, everyone. And to those joining us via Zoom, welcome to the British Columbia Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples Federation Convention Memorial Service, as well as our closing service for this convention for 2022. We're going to start this morning's service with silent meditation, followed by the Shomyo, recitation of in Buddha's name. Sunset.
Namanavs, 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 namanavs.
We shall now chant Sambujo, found on page 89 in the Purple Seitan, followed by the Amida Kyo, Amida Sutra on page 90. During the chanting, I shall be calling on various representatives of the different organizations to come forward to do Oshoko.
Namanavs, 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 namanavs. Oh. Ni. Jo. Ta. Yeah. Da. Jo. Ja. Anyorai. Ni. No. Jo. Sa. Yeah. Ra. Yeah. Oh. Yo. Ni. No. Yo. Sa. Yeah. Da. We are gathered here in the quietude of Amida's temple to commemorate the 2022 BC Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples Federation memorial service, in which we remember those who have gone on to Pure Land during this past year. We faithfully recite the Nembutsu and humbly join our hands in Gasho. May the fragrance of incense teach us the purity of our intentions. May the beauty of the flowers offered remind us of the glory of the Dharma. And may the lights that burn brightly upon the altar lead our thoughts to Amida's eternal light of wisdom and boundless compassion that dispels the darkness of our ignorance. Amida kyo yode gamo ije pada dai no Gushu Seni Yaga Jening Ai De Da Ya Ra Cha Je Jo Ra Cha Ri Ya De Ma Ga Ma Gen Ma Ga Ga Sho Ma Ma Ga Gu Chi Da Ri Ha Da Shu Ri Ha Da Ga Na 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 Yo Ba Da Da Ju Da 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 Ga Da Ai Ma Ga Go Yi Da A Ga Da A Da Da Yo De Yo Yo Da Ai De Shi Yo Yo Da Ma Ga Mo Shi Ni Ho Ji Ai Da Bo Da 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 Ai Bo Da Yo Yo Jin Mo Da Yo Yo De Do Yo Da Ai Bo Da Yo Jag Da Ga Ai Do Mơ Yo Jo De Nai Je Ge Ni Ji Bơ Đơ Go Jo Do Ja Ri O De Je De Zai O Je Ma Na Ge Bơ Do De Ga Ni Miao Wat Go Ge Ra Ge Go Do Bơ Đơ Go Ni Da Con nghe đại de mô ra đi ô tê y đô ga ga nhô y go ga ja ja ba ja ga da ja ja ra ga go myo ra ja đi ô do pe je 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 pe je je ra pe je je go je ra pe je je o je ra pe yo 내가 이거가며 자리여 어가라 어가라 어제 마지 아그저그의 제마 어제 다이저니 가자 어제 제가도 아들이 아리가저 저러가 야가가 아들이 아리자고 저그저메노 네가 제제제제제레게 다이여자니 저지기 저거 어지기여거 저거지기야거 저거지기며거 미며거 자리여거 거그저 저저녀대 그저그저거 자리여대 이버드 거그저 저사 생각 어가 이지 저야 저거지니 만다 그게 저가 저저저이저다 그게 저저시며 그게 그여자 저만다가 저기지 저기 겨겨 샤리어들 거그저 여여냐 그저 시샤리어들 거그저 제제기며사 지기지저 야고 그자그 어머샤리 가려빙가 그며시저 제저저저야 그지 세바게 원고 저 너가 그리기 보다이바 하여도 번여대도 도 저저만세 어디 아이즈네 보내서 자리여여 머이시죠 지르대다요 저저 저희자가 이버드 거그저 삼방을 이어서 저버드 거그저 삼방을 가경 지르대저 아이제 아미자 버여그려 젠드 행예 쇼사 샤리어드 이버드 거그도 스이저저 즉여라 모스이미묘워 이녀야그전저가 저지그자 마세요 소시자리여서 거부스 거그도 저주녀대 어저그저
Offering of incense, Oshoko. Representing the Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples of Canada, Kent McCall. Representing the British Columbia Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples Federation, President Ted Akune. Representing the British Columbia Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples Women's Women's League, Misai Akune, Hamara. Representing the Buddhist temples of southern Alberta, Brenda Ikuta. Representing the Vernon Buddhist Temple, Kari Natsuhara. Sorry, Kari. Representing the Fraser Valley Buddhist Temple, Lori North. Representing the Vancouver Buddhist Temple, Lornan Bishop. Representing the host temple for this convention of Stephen Buddhist Temple, Durgish Kaspika.
Đa đi ở nam mô đề gai ni ni ga do bơ giờ miao mong go bơ yang nghe bơ giờ ya mi do bơ giờ mơ điều cho chim bơ giờ nhỏ đề tô ga xa chư cho bơ giờ ga ga thi go cho đề tô bơ giờ đại善世界自救即自够，要多许就多行在修上，嘎西给个那个在小不是小个年幼，大地要是再要再改也没了这不。没了道不是没了道不。大高不是大妙不是阿弥不小高不是鸟在叫，高嘎下去小不是高高就在造业不善人太善在改日子要的这个。要到就就到现在就到。ga shi gi ge do ge i sai jo bu do go den yo sha ri yo de o bo se ge tem mo dai jo bo de nan jo bo de di xiao bo de mo miao bo de niao de do go ga sha ju jo bo de ga ge wa go go có cho thế so em bơ san sen đại sen se cái se tự cho chi tự ga do sư cho do jin se cho tăng hơ ca chi ki cơ đô cơ y sai cho bơ sư cho có thiên kia đại đi yo se ke wo se cái ơ chi chi bơ不是妙高，不是大是马，不是好道，不是奇药，不是鸟在多。高嘎下去小，不是高高高脚在走，眼不长人在真在开，真是小就是个。要到是叫到现在小三。ga shi gi ge dao ge yi zai xiao bu zi xiao ge nian jiao xia li yao zi jiao de ge ge nan bu zi xie ge wa bu zi ge jiao bu zi ge ge bu zi zai yan gen bu zai xi gi yao ge gong xin bu zi xia ra ju o bu thế đó cơ bơ sơ kê y sai y bơ sơ cho sư mi xem bơ sơ cho thế đó đó ca sa sư cho bơ sơ ca hư ho có cho thế cho em bơ san sen đại sen se cái thế sư cho chư sư道学教道今日教大和嘎叽叽个道个一塞教不是教个年你要是我鸟一样嘎个苗一塞教不个年就家里要是养猪在那西在鸟的。放在小不小的里面，也要描下在小在南西，要应该一在小不这个小个的，带这个带点我啊，这个大的那个什么的。阿里有是鸟多该多心也个个， so the sari of the yaguni of the gang of the gan do the gan Kusho amida ba kusha de jo nin do kai to ga tai te o a no ga da ra samya ga sa mo da o i ko ga do nya ga i sho nya ga gon sho nya ga do sho de go sha ri sho zen nan shi zen yo ni nya ga je gan cho yi có cái đó xa đi ở the nhỏ ca con cha cho ta cho bất tất cả sự kỳ cơ đó cái cho bất đó cha cứ cho tất cả tất cả sự kỳ cơ đó ni sa se con sang a mani bát nói trên ta thế vô si no cha ba có cơ đó có cho cơ a cơ se có cho cơ kiến cho cái sự cho cơ miao cho cơ chư cho cơ a no cơ ta ra sam mya cơ sam mô đại cho chư cho thế thế sai se kiến nan xin si yo sa đi yo do chi ga wo có cho cơ a cơ se cho chi nan chi cho cơ a no cơ ta ra sam mya cơ sam mô đại sai se ke ni nan xin chi yo de li jin nan bo de shi yo yi ja li yo de ye xiao bi ge yi sai se ke den ni a shu ra do mom bo xiao ze gan yi xin ye Sarai ni ko bơ xét a mi đa kyo na ma na 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 ma na ma na na Gan yi shi ge do ge yo no se yi sai do zi mo da yi shi o jo Snowman-Knobs, 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 Snowman.
Before we have our Dharma talk from our guest minister, I was very remiss in not introducing the ministers we have today, especially for those on Zoom. The people here know because I introduced them yesterday. But the Zoom people, people on Zoom, we are very honored to have with us Bishop Hoki, and he's the minister of the Vancouver Buddhist Temple. We have our interior Buddhist temples minister, Reverend Naoki Hirano. I'm not going to introduce our guest minister because I'm going to have Reverend Grant introduce him. And we have our minister's assistants one from Vancouver is Dr. Robert Akune. And our assistant minister is Roy Akune Sensei. And of course, we have our own sensei here from Steveston, Reverend Grant Ikuta. Now I shall have Ikuta Sensei introduce our guest speaker.
Good morning, everyone. My glasses are all fogged up. I haven't been chanting. I've been chanting without my masks on recently, so chanting with it on again is getting a little used to. Thank you all for joining us for our BC Jodo Shinshu Buddhist Temples Federation convention this weekend. And thank you to those who are joining us via Zoom for this service. I thought my uncle was going to say we're going to have Ikuta Sensei introduce Ikuta Sensei, which is a very odd thing. We have the chairperson, my uncle, Kuni Ikuta, and here I am now about to introduce our guest speaker, my brother, Reverend Dr. Roland Ikuta. I did introduce him to the delegates yesterday during our convention. But for those of you who weren't here yesterday, of course, Reverend Dr. Roland Ikuta is my older brother. And I've known him literally all my life. And Dr. Ikuta, at that point, he was a geriatrician. He spent his career as a geriatrician. And he just recently retired from that and has started his new path as Kaikyoshi minister. Well, he's just finished his Kyoshi ministry, and hopefully he will take on the path of Kaikyoshi down the road. And without any, I don't think you need more introduction than that. I'm not going to give you more introduction than that. So without any further ado, I'd like to call upon my brother, Roland Sensei, to give the Dhamma.
Good morning, everybody. Could you please join me in Gassho? As for me, I simply accept and entrust the Nembutsu to what my reverend teacher told me. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida. Nothing else is involved. Such, in the end, is how the foolish person entrusts himself to the vow. Beyond this, whether you take up acceptance of the Nembutsu or whether you abandon it, it is for each of you to determine. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you. This passage is taken from the first chapter of the Tanninsho. It quotes Shinran Shonin as focusing on trusting in Amida's compassion and reciting the Nembutsu. It also emphasizes that this is the path that he chose, but that each individual, each one of us, have to decide if this is the right path for us. And that's been the theme of this weekend's conference or convention. We've been talking about the path of Nembutsu. I do want to thank the organizers of the convention, the BC Federation Convention this weekend. It's been a great weekend. I've sure learned a lot, and it's been fun to get to meet everybody or meet old acquaintances. The meals have been just phenomenal, right? I think I've gained 10 pounds flying back, so yeah. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to talk about several things about the path. So the first thing I went through was the 7 masters and how the 7 masters changed the Pure Land path or added to it. So the teachings of the 7 masters really informed the Pure Land path. And then I spent a little time talking about Shinran Shonin and his life. And I really wanted to focus on how he revolutionized Pure Land thinking. And then at the very end, I talked a little bit about, is this the right path for me? I think that that's something that's very important for all of us to think about. Is this the right path for me? And I gave some examples, a little bit of examples of how the Jodo Shinshu teaching fits my life, how it makes sense to me. So it's that last point that I want to talk about today. And I want to use a recent example that I had to talk about how I feel that this Jodo Shinshu path fits for me. How does it make sense for me? When we talk about, is this the right path for me? Is this the right religion for me? Is this the right school for me? I think that it's important for us to think about, well, what is religion supposed to do for us anyways, right? So what is Jodo Shinshu, or what is religion in general supposed to be all about? How is it supposed to help us? So I'm going to open it up to questions to you. Can anybody think of a way that this religious path or religion in general is supposed to help us? What is it supposed to do for us? Does anybody want to comment, or anybody have some ideas? Why have religion in this world? Anybody? Yes, thank you.
Not going to control it. In a way, yeah. In a way, kind of bring peace to everybody in society, right?
So,
doesn't mean that true. Gives people some kind of sense. Filling their needs.
Filling their needs and
And that's why there's so many shootings.
Right. So thank you for that comment. So there's that societal aspect, right? It brings us into harmony. So we follow a certain path, we follow certain ethical guidelines or moral guidelines. So it keeps our society or a group in the society in harmony. We do the same thing, we follow the same practices. So yes, that's definitely one. So there's a societal role for religion. What else is there about religion? How else does religion help us? Yes. Right. A moral compass. So on a personal level, it acts as a moral compass. That's very, very good. So it helps us and guides us. Other ways that I think religion is supposed to help us. First of all, most people mention the idea that it's supposed to answer the big questions, right? Why are we here? What happens to us when we die, right? Those questions that as mortal human beings, we're going to ask ourselves inevitably at some point. It helps us to think about those questions, right? Some would say that religion promotes physical and mental well-being. So a good example of this is the whole mindfulness movement, right? It's supposed to help promote, and it did come from a religious Buddhist background. But I think for me, one of the main features of religion is it's supposed to motivate people to work towards positive personal and social changes. So it's supposed to help you as an individual be the best person that you can be. And I'm going to quote Kenji Miyaji sensei, who was recently one of our instructors at the Kyoshi session I went through. And he said, religion should lead a person to their fullest potential. Okay? Essentially, religion should bring out the best in an individual. What this means that it's not a person that not, what this means is not that a person will live a pious and righteous life by living in specific set of ethical principles, but instead, religion should bring forth the full potential of that individual, right? So religion really should promote us to be the best person that we can be, okay? So thank you for that. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the purpose, at least I think, of religion. So I want to tell you a story about how I feel that a recent experience I had that confirmed that the Jodo Shinshu path was the right path for me. So this happened just 3 weeks ago when I was going through my Kyoshi session in Berkeley. And just to let people, to summarize, it's been about 5 years of fairly hard work to get to this process. So having to go through the correspondence course, having to do Tokudo, take classes in IBS and all that kind of stuff. And part of the difficulty was that the COVID pandemic kept putting off this Kyoshi process. So we didn't know if it was going to happen or not. Even in as recently as June, we weren't certain that it was going to happen. And in June, we were told, okay, it's not going to happen in Japan because there's a big COVID outbreak in Japan, but it's going to happen in Berkeley instead. So after it was decided it was going to happen in August the 19th, it was with much anticipation that 11 of us gathered to go through this Kyoshi process. Many of the people that were going through, in fact, 9 of us had done Tokudo together. So we were all very close friends. We knew each other really well. We studied together. We were in all IBS classes together. So it was a really nice, comfortable setting. So we all gathered at Berkeley. And the first 4 days went really well. No problems at all. We were practicing, we were chanting, getting to know each other, unpacking, and practicing wearing our robes, which some of us hadn't done for a couple of years. And so the first 4 days went really well. But on day 4, I started to feel sick. I started to not feel very well at all. And so on that day 4, I actually had to go into isolation. And it turned out a couple of days later, I tested positive for COVID, right? So all of a sudden, here I was at these sessions where we were supposed to have lectures, which were fine. I could do that on Zoom. But over half the session is spent on rituals, how to chant, how to perform sahos on the Naijin with these various chants, etc. And so I had to go into isolation because I had COVID, and it really was disappointing for me. First of all, I flew all the way down there. I had been practicing all the last 5 years. And so when I was in isolation, I was feeling pretty down. In fact, I went through all of the stages of grieving. So how many people know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grieving? Have you heard of that? So when you go through a loss, when someone passes away, or if you're going through something like a diagnosis of cancer, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was one of the first people to identify sort of the stages as you go through as you're grieving, right? And those stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance, right? So anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I'm going to tell you how I actually went through these stages. So the first stage I went through was denial. So the day that I was feeling unwell, I first got a sore throat. And I thought, but we've been chanting a lot and they've been burning lots of incense. So my sore throat is probably just because of my chanting, right? And then my next thought was, okay, I'm feeling pretty hot. I was sweating, I was feeling almost like feverish, but I thought, okay, I'm wearing 4 sets of robes, 4 different layers of robes. I haven't worn those for a long time. And so probably I was hot and sweating because of the robes. But then when I started to get muscle aches, I knew, okay, I'm sick. So that's when I told them I was sick and I had to go into isolation. For the first stage was denial. I'm not sick. There's nothing wrong with me. I can keep working through this. But then I realized, okay, I'm sick. The second stage was anger, right? So I got really mad. I was thinking, why me, first of all? Why was I the one who had to get COVID? And then I started thinking about, well, who gave it to me? How did I get this COVID infection? And I was thinking about my flight down. I happened to be sitting by a very nice man, but he was an ICU nurse in Calgary. We were talking about our stories. And I do remember that he was coughing. And so I'm sitting in isolation and I was getting madder and madder, right? Why did this happen to me? Why did that guy have to sit beside me? And I thought, maybe I should report him to the nurses union, right? I mean, he was flying around. He gave me the COVID, even though I had no way of proving it. So the second stage I definitely went through was anger. And then I went through depression. As I was sitting there in isolation, not being able to participate very much, feeling kind of sick, I felt really down. Like, oh no, am I going to get through this? Is this even worth it? So I was feeling very depressed. I didn't go through bargaining. So Kubler-Ross describes the bargaining phase. And I didn't go through bargaining partially because as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we don't have petitionary prayer. So I really didn't have anybody to pray to or bargain with. And I didn't know that what I would bargain for anyway. So I didn't go through bargaining, but I went through a very different phase, and that's of being embarrassed. Okay, I felt ashamed. I felt like I was causing so many people so much trouble. I also found out that if another person got COVID, there was a good chance that the entire Kyoshi process would get canceled. So I was feeling really guilty and really feeling bad. And as we were talking with Bishop Aoki, Bishop Harada, the Bishop of the BCA, and other instructors, they were trying to talk to me about, well, how are we going to get you through this? First of all, make sure that you're still alive tomorrow. But also, you know, they would try to talk about, okay, but you can participate in Zoom this way and that way. So even if you're in isolation, we'll get you through this. And we had several meetings like that in the hallway, distance apart, everybody wearing masks, and they didn't want to come close to me at all, and I don't blame them. But as we were going through that talk, all I could do was kept saying, I'm sorry. Gomen nasai, gomen nasai, gomen nasai. I'm so sorry that I caused this much trouble. And I think that's kind of very typical of Japanese, Canadian, Japanese Americans, right? My father instilled in us the idea that you shouldn't be troublesome. Jama ni naran. You know, don't be a problem for other people. You know, do your own thing and make sure that you are able to carry your own weight. And so I kept saying over and over again, I'm sorry, I feel so badly. And it was Aoki Socho that actually said something to me that actually took me aback a little bit. He said to me, stop saying you're sorry. Stop that. I don't want you to say you're sorry one more time again. He said, say thank you instead. Do you remember that, Aoki Socho? Yeah. So he really changed my way of thinking, right? So all of a sudden I was realized, okay, here I am feeling sorry for myself, feeling depressed, and feeling bad that all this trouble that I was causing. But I wasn't thinking about all the instructors and all the people who were trying to get me through it, number one. All of the staff at the center who were bringing me medicine, liquids, meals, they were doing everything they could to try and make sure I was alive the next day. You know, all of the people at home that had supported me to get to that point. And I realized from what Aoki Socho said that I had to change my attitude. I had to change the way I was thinking from feeling sad, angry, depressed to being grateful, right? And that's when it hit home for me that, yes, this Jodo Shinshu path is the right path for me. Makes sense. It really helped me in my way of thinking. I also realized that Kubler-Ross described these 5 stages of grieving. And for Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, I think we actually have 6 stages of grieving. So we may go through denial, anger, depression. I don't think many of us will go through bargaining, but we may go through a stage of feeling bad or guilty. And then she described the stage of acceptance. But I think the sixth stage for us Jodo Shinshu Buddhists is gratitude, that we come to accept what's going on, and our next way of thinking is to be grateful for everything that we're given. And it has a deeper meaning in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. So the acceptance phase is not acceptance about what's happening to us, but the acceptance of Amida's primal vow, of his compassion. The fact that he said, it's okay, doesn't matter how you are or who you are or what you're doing, I accept you into my pure land. So that compassion of his primal vow, that acceptance of it is in Jodo Shinshu, our fifth stage. And then the Nembutsu naturally flows from us as an expression of gratitude. We say, Amida Buddha made this great vow. He's so compassionate. Thank you very much. And I think in many ways, that's the phases that we would go through as Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. So as I remained in isolation for those 7 or 8 days, it was really difficult at times. But the real positive thing is that thinking about the Jodo Shinshu path, being able to hear all of these really great scholars and lecturers, the teachers who are telling us how to do the Nembutsu the right way, Amida Kyo the right way, and all that, I really changed because of our Jodo Shinshu teaching, I think, from a feeling of being negative and angry and depressed to feeling more positive, having a better spin on what was happening at the time. And I was able to appreciate and be grateful for everything that I was able to go through. So I think for a very short time, thinking about the Nembutsu teaching, the Jodo Shinshu teaching allowed me to be a little bit of better version of myself than I would have been otherwise. And for me, that really affirmed the fact that yes, this teaching does help me as an individual. It helps me understand that change in attitude, as people coin it, the attitude of gratitude is really helpful. That this religion is the right path for me because it, in a little bit of time, helped me think more positively and more openly about my life and what was going on. So I hope that these lessons keep coming back to me. I hope I can use this experience. So if I'm feeling down, if there's something negative happening to me, I can think back to this experience and think more positively and in more of a appreciative manner than I'm doing at that time. So please join me in Gassho again. As for me, I simply accept and entrust the Nembutsu to what my revered teacher told me. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida. Nothing else is involved. Such, in the end, is how the foolish person entrusts himself to the vow. Beyond this, whether you take up and accept the Nembutsu or whether you abandon it, it is for each of you to determine. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Amanda. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Reverend Roland. I'm so grateful to have you as my nephew. You too, Grant. We shall have a message from our president of the Station Buddhist Temple, Terakune.
When I'm asked to thank people, I always fear that I'm going to forget someone or a group, etc. And so I will first of all, thank all the ministers here. I won't mention all their names. We've mentioned them a number of times. I want to thank the Fujinkai, Our Ladies group, for everything that they did over the 2 days. I want to thank the Wisteria place. They have everything ready for us, even though we do consider it our own place. We work in cooperation with them. I want to thank Yvonne from yesterday for the wonderful meals that we were offered. And when it comes to our topic, the Nembutsu, the path, or the path of Buddhism, or the path of the Nembutsu, all of us here are on that path. And yesterday we heard each minister talk about the path that they took to where they have come to this present time. And I'd like to think that for all of us as individuals, one, we're on a path, and because we're on that path, we're here. Most of you are. And so being on that path has brought us to here. That path raises a lot of questions because we all have our own life to lead, and we go through many things. There are things that cause us stress. There are our own family issues that we have, etc. But as Reverend Roland Ikuta mentioned, that when we have a different way of understanding, a different way of thinking, that it does wonderful things in terms of how we view things. And so I'm no different than you. I have I get stressed out, and sometimes I want to swear, and this, that, and the other. But when you come right down to it, being grateful for everything around us, and that sense of gratefulness, when you think of the meals and all the things that went into the meals, we think of just, I mentioned Yvonne and all the things that she did for us. But when you think of all the ingredients that went into the meal, and we could go on and on and on how that brought us this wonderful meals over the weekend. And so we have many things to be grateful for. And I wish to just say thank you, for this weekend. I think all of us are taking away something that will hopefully become here in our hearts, and so that we are able to accept Amida in our hearts. And so again, thank you for attending. I'm sure I've missed someone to thank. I want to say thank you to Kuni Ikuta. Kuni's he's someone at our temple that we whether we like it or not, we just assume a lot of things. And so I just want to take an opportunity to thank Kuni on behalf of the Federation. So again, thank you very much. And next, Reverend Grant, is there any messages regarding the lunch or anything? Or, sorry. Thanks again.
It's putting me on the spot. Basically, there is bento lunch for at Wisteria Place where we had dinner last night. So please join us for the bento. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant Sensei, for the announcement. If you'll all stand, we shall now sing Shinshushuka, and you can find that in the Purple Seitan on page 306. Please be seated. I don't know if many of you noticed here in the temple that we have different candles burning today. These candles are special. They're brought in from Japan. They're made in a certain way that we get a nice big flame and they don't burn out really quickly. I think what it is the wax is different and they wrap the wax. They don't dip it. They wrap it. And that makes it so special. Am I right, Roy? Thank you. This concludes the service. Also, it concludes the convention. The next year's convention might be somewhere in the interior. And I think the Vernon chapter is going to take it back to their temple and get their okay to perhaps host the convention either in Vernon or somewhere in the interior. that they determine. So for those of you on Zoom that are watching, we invite you to join us next year at the convention. Learn from all these various members who contribute to this convention. And your contribution would be much greatly appreciated. So please join us next year at the convention somewhere in the interior. And as mentioned, to those of you who are here, we have ordered obento for lunch. So please join us for a final bit of eating. And that will be taking place at Wisteria Place in the multipurpose room. Thank you. Sensei, do you have something to add?
So we'll have the pre-meal meditation. I asked Hirano Sensei to lead us.
Thank you.
So please join me guys. So I can't wait for the obento. Supporting the meals all the time. I very thankful to all the people, the members, and who prepare these meals. So that is my excuse. I'm going to the very short grace for the obento. So please show. When gratitude to all sentient beings, all of you, I humbly receive this meal with joy of gasho and thanks. いただきます。
いただきます。No mandos, no mandos, no mandos.
Please have a safe journey home. We'll see you at lunch.
If you haven't done so yesterday, unfortunately, because it's the senior independent senior housing has a little stricter restrictions. If you didn't sign it, there's some sheets, contact tracing forms over in the back. If you didn't sign, if you signed yesterday, that's fine. Please sign in, so I have to give it to the front desk so that they have it, contact tracing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone on Zoom.